Now we're recording. Oh, let me make sure that you want to sit up tall. Okay, that's good. All right.
I like this castle.
I know it is. I like it
feels
too.
so princessy.
Oh, we should put it on the board. Isn't that the first player, or is it?
No,
not
this is like a single player.
Oh, it is?
Oh, no, it is the first player token. You're right.
Okay, so let's start.
Tigers with breasts.
I forgot. If you thought tigers were missing something, well then this is the game for you. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel today. My name is Carly.
And I'm Kim.
And today we're actually going to be sharing our first impressions on a brand new title from Thunderworks Games that's going to be coming to Kickstarter soon. And this game is called Citizens of the Spark. So like I mentioned before, this is a first thoughts video. This game is going to be coming to Kickstarter, I think when I'm releasing this video, then it'll actually be live on Kickstarter. So I'll make sure to have all the information in the description below for this game if you are interested. But what we're going to be doing for this video is we're just going to be kind of chatting about our first thoughts on this game. Each of us have had the opportunity to play this game a handful of times together or separate, and so we're just going to be chatting about it and our thoughts. We're not really going to be kind of going into how to play, but I am going to kind of just generally explain what you're basically going to be doing when you play this game. So thematically, what is happening in this game is there's been this like solar surge. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
it was like, yeah,
Are we on a different planet?
I
even?
think we are. Let's see.
see.
A mysterious cosmic signal reached the shores of Fiera, a small underdeveloped planet. So it is a new planet. And this signal, when it hit this world, it basically enlightened everything. So all of the creatures and everything became very smart and civilized, and they started building up these civilizations. And the point of this game is basically to build up the best civilization. And what you're going to be doing is when you set up this game, you will have 3 groups of cards in front of you. And on your turn, you will be selecting a group to then add to your city. After you do that, then you have an optional action, and that optional action is actually to play one of the characters that are in your city. When you play them, you put the card in front of you, and then you're able to go through and do whatever it says. Now, what makes this game interesting is that if I were to play a card, now everybody around the table who also has that same character in their city, could choose to then follow me and play their own tyrant for in this current example that we have. And so you go around and everybody does the action that wants to or that can, and then every card that was used gets discarded and new cards fill in the places that were taken, and then Spark actually gets added to these as well. How you win the game is by getting the most Spark. This is what everybody's fighting over. This is what everybody wants. And every single round, the cards that were not chosen, a Spark gets added to them. And so whoever at a future turn grabs those cards gets to retain and collect those Sparks. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Essentially what you're doing is grabbing cards, adding them to your little tableau in front of you, and then picking whatever ability you want to activate and then activate it. And that's basically your turn.
Yeah, and then I would just say at endgame, you get points for all your Sparks, you get points for every card in your city, and then you get points for, it's funny that you picked this one because this is actually an endgame card, and then you get points for any cards that have like endgame points.
And what does trigger the end of the game is by this deck fully running out. So that's what's going to be happening every round. But what makes this interesting is that the cards and the characters that you are playing with are actually going to be completely different game to game if you want them to be. This is a variable card setup type of game where the game comes with a ton of different characters.
Can I see all that?
Yep, and when you are playing, I think for the most part, how many do you start with? 7 cards?
For
7 citizens.
For 2
For
players.
1 or 2 players. If you were 3-player game, then it's 8 citizens. 4-player game would be 9 citizens, and a 5-player game would be 10 citizens. And so, yeah, you can mix and match the ones. Once you know the game pretty well, then you can probably pick the characters that you want yourself. Or the back of the rulebook does come with suggested setups for different styles of games that you want to be playing with. Having said all that, let's go ahead and kind of jump into our first thoughts after playing this game a handful of times. My very first time when I sat down and played this game, I was like, oh, okay, I mean, it looks interesting, it looks fine. But then once we started getting into it, I actually enjoyed this game a lot more than I thought I would. And I think the reason why is because it's really tricky that when you play an ability, now everybody else around the table has the opportunity to play that exact ability as well. And so it makes it really thinky because you can't be too smart almost because every move that you're making, somebody could just follow up with it and do that move right back to you. So you really need to be strategic about when you are playing your cards. For example, if I have a card that allows me to battle somebody else, well, I don't want them to battle me, so I'm going to wait until they don't have that ability in their city, and then that's when I can play my card. So I know that they're not going to, that ability is not going to come back and bite me in the butt, basically.
Yeah, I was realizing that, especially in the game that we played on Tuesday night, where we played on the back of this, the recommended card sets, it has like specific first game, short game, low interaction, high interaction. We played the high interaction one. And it was like very mean.
Very mean, actually. Like almost too high interaction for me.
Because it was just lots of the flame on the characters around the citizens.
Which is like the attack action.
So we played a lot of the cards that we selected had the flame ability. So there's just like a lot of attacking.
Stealing other people's cards.
Stealing or switching or like making people get rid of their citizens. And so I would realize whenever, I think it was specifically the executioner, if I played an executioner and then everyone else played an executioner, then I also was punished. So I had to really think about, okay, when do I want to play my executioner that's not going to have someone else play the executioner that's going to make me get rid of my card. We played the first game when we first played, because play first game. And it was a lot more just kind of like doing your own thing.
Building out your city. I kind of want to touch on that because really... Oh, no, you're good. I'll hold this now. Now that I'm talking. So I really, really liked how the game came with all of these setups and with different ways basically to play the game. Because this game, based on my plays of it really can feel completely different game to game.
Yes.
Like, when I think about what our very first game, we played the first game, recommended setup, it felt like a completely different game than, like, the high interaction one, for example. So, really, there is this is a game that you really can kind of tailor it almost, like, to the people around the table. If you're around people that want to be in each other's faces and want to be mean and want that kind of, like, strategic level of planning, then do that high interaction. Do that strategic one. But then
have it set up for strategic.
For the strategic, And so it's like if you want, a kind of more like mellow game where you're just kind of focused on yourself, well, then you have that ability to tailor the cards into whatever kind of genre you're kind of trying to go for. For me personally, like when we were playing the high interaction, it almost felt too high interaction for me because you could never really build anything. Like, you really had to get the cards that you want to play that turn and just fully expect that by the time it's your turn again, your cards are going to be gone and you won't have a city. It was really hard to kind of... it just felt like a completely different game. A completely different game.
You really had to think about, I know I'm not going to get points by having citizens in my city.
Yeah.
So I have to think about, what can I do to gain the most spark on my turn, because I'm not getting those points from citizens at the end of the game. I love the artwork and all the colors of the artwork. So that was like one of my first impressions, besides one thing, which I don't know if you... Besides one thing. There's one thing with the artwork that I did not like. Should I just go ahead and say it? Okay. The one thing with art, especially, so we talked about the breasts on the tigers. That's fine. So we're playing
It's like anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah, they're humanoid animals, right? Okay. And they all have, like, appendage, like, no. What are...
Like fingers?
Fingers? What's the word for that? Is it appendages?
This is an appendage.
You're right, your arm is an appendage. What are the word for fingers?
Fingers.
A word for it.
I know there's a word, I don't know it though.
You drive me crazy.
It's okay, all the animals have hands.
Yeah, they have hands, they have fingers. And yet,
why do they have a paw print
Yeah.
on the back of the cards if like, none of the animals have paw prints?
Yeah, I don't know. That just like drove me crazy. I was like, what? Playing it, the theme does not come through in the gameplay. So.
And it doesn't matter what's on the back of the cards at all.
It doesn't.
But it's like
that was just
the moment I didn't even notice that until Kim pointed it out, and now every single time I see it, it like triggers me.
Yeah. So that first impression, okay. That's what we're talking about. And then we're reading through the rules, and I was like, oh, this doesn't seem like it's going to be too interesting. But the moment that Carly was reading through the rules, and she brought up the rule about being able to follow with your citizens, I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Mm-hmm. And especially in the case of, we talked about how, I have to hold this again. We talked about how there's all these different setups to play, and one of the setups is like low interaction. But that follow ability still makes you engaged in what everyone is doing on their turn. So It's not like this, like, okay, I do my thing and then I just sit
and wait until it's my turn again.
It still makes you engaged. So things are always happening that you can like participate in. And I don't know, that was just like this nice, like, oh, I like that. So this is like, I guess, another complaint issue, I guess. So these spark tokens are really cool and they're sparkly and they're fun. And then the more you get, though, then you get like these cardboard tokens. And one of my friends, he was like, why do I don't want to give up my spark for this boring cardboard token. Like, I want to keep the sparkly token.
It is really weird to me that they would, and I don't know, maybe this is just a prototype, yes. So maybe this is just like stand-in stuff, but it is weird that you go from like this cool spark to then like just cardboard tokens. Yeah. Like, I wish that there was just like 4 different versions of these or whatnot. Yeah.
I agree.
And talking about Spark, I feel like we needed way more. Especially when you play with big games. Again, this could just be a prototype thing. But I hope the final version has a lot more Spark because you need it.
I feel like playing 2 to 5 player you can play it 2 player, like, and I played fine, but I do feel like it does end up being a pretty different game when you're playing with more people too.
Yes, because that's just that many more characters that are spread across the cities, that many more cities that you're dealing with and different characters and combinations. And, you know, if somebody plays the tyrant or the soldier, it's like, well, do I really want to play it now or do I want to wait for the next person to play the soldier so then I can... So it definitely adds, again, just more to that. It gives way more interaction with more players.
Yeah, and I think that some of these setups will do better with more, and some of them will do better with 2. Like, we just mentioned the soldier. So the soldier's specific ability is take the variable. So in this case, it's a card. So you get to take a card from a city with fewer sword icons, or sword guilds, sorry, than yours. And if I'm playing with just Carly, then I just have one opponent to take from, and like maybe I will never
ever be able to activate that.
Yeah, because if she's just always catching up on swords, and I'm never going to have more. But if there's more people on the table, it's more likely that I'll be able to be like, oh, that person doesn't have any swords, and even if I only have 2, then I can play it and steal from them.
I did have a slight little issue with the iconography. I felt like it just read a little bit weird because there are certain icons throughout the game, but the biggest one is like this variable one. Because like this one says, draw variable from the deck, return 2 to the bottom of the deck and replace the rest. And basically all this is talking about, it just is referencing the bottom of the card. And I felt like for me, the very first time that I read it, it kept just the way that you would go and like read it, it kind of kept messing with my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just like, it was weird wording, basically.
Yes. And like I can attest that when we were sitting down and reading through the rules, Carly had to like go through the rule book several times just to be like, wait, is this what it means? And like going back to just double check, like, is this what this means? Are we doing this right?
Yeah, because sometimes they just read weird. Like I don't even know how to describe it, but the cards just kind of read weird. Having said all that though, I think my biggest kind of negative to this game is I feel like there's a little bit of a runaway leader issue with the game.
Yeah.
Because every single game that I've played, it's very clear who is going to win.
Yeah.
And for the most part, there's no way to really catch up to them. Once somebody starts taking the lead and just starts, just kind of pounding out, getting all that spark, it's really hard to catch up to them at that point. What did you feel like there was? a little bit of that?
Yeah, I in the, I think, 3 games. I don't know if you want me to say how many games I played.
Oh, it's fine.
Maybe cut that out.
No, it's our first thought.
Yeah,
so.
and the few games that I played, I think that is true because in our very first game, I think I definitely got the lead with a certain, I had more of a certain icon and character than Carly did, and yeah, that gave me more points or more spark. And yeah, it was clear that I was going to win. And then that same thing was true when I played with Trevor, because there was no way I was going to catch up at all. Like, I'm just like, oh, like, do we just quit now? Because I know I'm not winning. And I would say, like, it was maybe the least true in the high interaction game that we played, because things were constantly changing. But I did end up taking the lead, and I think I won by like 20 points compared to everyone else had about similar-ish scores, but I was able to, I guess, win that one, and I think it would have been hard for anyone to catch up.
And it is really hard because lots of times the certain cards that you're playing with, sometimes you're just playing with cards that you literally cannot do anything. Like if you are, let's pretend you're really big on strength or something, or like the battle icon. If you have a lot of those, sometimes I literally can't do anything about that. So all the cards that benefit you if you are the strongest in battle are completely obsolete to me now, because now I know Kim has a stronger battle than me, and there's nothing that I can do about it. So there's no use. All these Tyrant cards or all these other ones, we keep coming back to Tyrant because Tyrant's right here. But they're completely useless to me because there's nothing that I can do about her battle because of the cards that are in the deck.
Yeah, I would say that was probably the most frustrating thing for me in the gameplay, was that there were turns where I felt like it wasn't worthwhile for me to actually take the action. Like, I would take my set and I would add it to my city, but there wasn't anything that I could do to like benefit myself during my turn. It was just like, all right, I guess there's not anything that I feel like I can really do right now, so I guess my turn's over.
I almost wish that every single card had like a secondary ability that was just like inherent, you can do this no matter what. Right. Because lots of these cards, they are dependent upon either your city or your opponent's city. So I wish that there were,
that's a good way to
very just like basic abilities that even if the card that you play, it's not going to do anything, well, then you could do its second ability that will still allow you to do something or progress yourself in some way.
Yes.
I did really like the organization system, and like it's really easy to grab and kind of pick the ones that you want. And I can see how when you get to the point of knowing this game really well, being able to kind of like finally craft your own game. And once you know the characters well, you can kind of pick and fine-tune the game, which I really liked. All right, so kind of wrapping up this video, obviously we've chatted a lot about this game. Likes, dislikes, but I do want to reference you over to the Kickstarter campaign that, like I mentioned, it should be live for this game when I am posting this video. So I'll make sure to have all the information in the description below, but I want to reference you over there because this is just a prototype copy of the game. So everything that we talked about is subject to change, and they could be making lots of tweaks and little changes and adjustments from this copy until you receive your final copy. So definitely head over to the crowdfunding campaign for this game, check it out, and see if this would be a good game for you. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I wanted to give a special shout out to Thunderworks Games for sending us this prototype to be able to kind of get our first thoughts on, to share with you today. And if you enjoyed this video and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it means so much if you could do that. It really helps support us in everything that we're doing over here. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.
Tigers with breasts.
I forgot.
I'm sorry, she's like staring. Well, she's not staring.
I don't know why it did. I found it slightly disturbing, and I don't know why. But I remember, I think we were playing the first game of it, and I kept staring because it was like facing me, and I just kept staring, and I was like, I don't know why I find that disturbing, but for some reason I do.